Hi, my name is Josh, and I'm a watchaholic. Welcome to Horology Insanity. What is up, my watch friends? So, check this out. I want to do a head-to-head comparison of these two watches. Now, this is because somebody in the Zelos Timekeepers group asked about it, and so this is kind of a response to that, even though, you asked a little while ago, and I'm not sure when this is going to air. But I hope this helps anyone out there who is curious about comparing the Nova with the Skyraider. Now, in this case, I am comparing on the left the V1 titanium Skyraider with the meteorite dial and blue accents, and very similar in overall style and aesthetic. This is the Zelos Nova with the gray meteorite dial and blue accents. So what I want to do is I first want to just talk about, let's do a head-to-head comparison on a number of different specs and points and metrics or whatever. And then I want to talk about how they wear on wrist. So starting out, let's talk about price. Well, and I should go ahead and mention, these are sold out. Right? They're sold out. You can't buy them from Zelos, but you might be able to hunt for one and get one on the used market. Now, I will say that the Skyraiders are near impossible to get unless you pony up a huge premium to kind of coax someone to sell theirs. So I think the Novas might be a little bit more attainable, but I'm not sure what they're currently going for. So when I'm talking about price right now, I'm talking about what does Elshin have them listed for on his website as MSRP. And the Skyraider, he's got at $1,099, or basically $1,100. And he's got the Nova at $1,049, or $50 less. So these are very comparable in price. And I think at this level, around $1,000, is that mid-tier? I don't know what's budget and affordable versus mid-tier versus luxury. I think a lot of people just make stuff up as they go along to kind of decide whatever they want. But I consider things around $1,000 to be mid-tier. And so that's just kind of the way I think about it. But let's talk about some differences. The Skyraider V1 is made out of grade 5 titanium, and all the Novas are made out of stainless steel. Now let's also talk about kind of the elephant in the room and the fact that these are completely different sizes. So on the left, we've got a 42.5 millimeter case, 50 millimeter lug to lug, 13 millimeter thick, and then it's got a 22 millimeter strap. Now, on the complete opposite end of the size spectrum, you've got a 38 millimeter case width on the Nova, 44 lug to lug, only 8.5 thick, and that's including the crystal. It's like a 7 millimeter case, but it's 8.5 total with that box dome crystal, which you'll notice the Skyraider is just flat. Right? It's really flat. And so when you put these kind of side by side, you can start to see how they compare. The Nova is like half the size. It really is. It's like half the size. Oh, and then 20 millimeter here with the straps. Now, they both have ETA movements, and they're both hand wind movements, and they both have 44-hour power reserves. So the difference is just the model number. In the Zelos Skyraider here, and let me get this opened up, you have the ETA 6498 movement, and you have this giant caseback, see-through caseback that I adore. And let's get zoomed in because you can then start to really see, oh, there it is. Yeah, ETA 6498. You can really start to see the finishing work and just how beautiful this watch is to look at from the back. I used to own one of the bronze Skyraider skeletons, the V1, and I used to enjoy looking at the back of it more than I did the front, because even though it was this movement, it was all skeletonized. It was absolutely stunning. So that's the Skyraider. Now let me go ahead and hold up the Nova. Here we have the ETA 7001 movement. You can see that there's a much smaller see-through caseback, but you can see a very beautifully decorated movement with blued screws. And so that's pretty sweet looking there. Now, I will say, and I've said it in almost every video that I've ever done on the Zelos Nova, I wish the Nova had a larger either movement or a larger see-through case back, kind of like the Skyraider does. Every time I look at this Nova, I feel like I'm looking through a peephole in a door. It just looks so small. And I don't know, does anybody know, is this case back actually showing all of the movement? Meaning, is the 7001 movement really this tiny? And is that why he had to do that? Or is there movement underneath this very thick metal part right here that maybe could have been shown and exposed if they have used a very thin ringed display case back like the Zelos Skyraider V1 has? The V2 has a very similar one to it. So yeah, I'm curious about that, and that would be kind of a big difference for me. And depending on what you love about watches, like for example, I love looking at the back of this. It's the same with my Laco that has this movement. I like looking at the back of this. And so for me, that might be a point, like a decision factor. I might get the Skyraider over this Nova simply because of this case back. Yeah, but again, different strokes for different folks, right? You may think differently. Now, the last spec that I wrote down is just the water resistance, because somehow on this Nova, he says it's rated for 100 meters of water resistance. The Skyraider is only rated for 50. And for a watch like that, that's kind of what I would expect, even though I will say I'm kind of impressed that the Nova has 100. Both of them have non-screw down crowns because they're hand wound watches. So you got to be able to just take it, you know, crank it, get it going. Oh yeah, I'm wearing my other Skyraider, by the way. But yeah, you got to be able to just like get it going and pick it up and go. And so no screw down crown, but you can see the differences of the case backs. Again, screw down using these 4 screws here versus the traditional like screw in. And so maybe that's what allowed them to do it. The case over here on the Nova might be a little bit more snug and tight because of that. But let's talk about real quick how they wear. Keep in mind, I have an 8-inch wrist. So this is my Skyraider, my blue one, on an 8-inch wrist. Now let me just get this real quick. This, and I have other videos on the Zelos Nova. This is the Nova on my 8-inch wrist. And if I'm honest, the Nova's a little small. It is. Now, I own the salmon dial Nova, and I wear it on a beads of rice bracelet, which gives it a little bit more wrist presence, wearing it on the bracelet instead of like on a leather, for example. And I like it, but only because I love that dial and the texture and the color. If it were up to me, I would rather have a 40 or 41 millimeter Nova. That would be awesome. And so I love the thinness. I would want to keep it this thin, but I would want the case width to be closer to the Skyraider. Maybe a 40, probably a 40. Yeah. And so I think because he was doing like a classic dress style watch when he did this Nova, that's why he made it so small. But for those of us with large wrists, it's a little too small. Now, my buddy Jonathan has a 6.5-inch wrist, and he says he loves it. In fact, he has 3 Novas because he loves them and they wear so well on his wrist. So that could be another determinant factor. In addition to like me deciding because I like this case back more, I think another determinant factor might be, well, the thinness. That could be a deal breaker for some. But the Zelos, the Skyraider doesn't wear thick. It really doesn't. The V2s are even thinner, which I appreciate. I kind of wish the V1s were a little thinner, but they don't wear thick. It's not, I wouldn't call this a chunky monkey the way that I would my Hammerheads and some of those others, but it's definitely not as thin as this Nova. But yeah, just on wrist, you know, it might be that you would decide between these two just based upon how big your wrist is. Or maybe not about how big your wrist is, but what size of watch do you like to wear? I know some people that have, you know, a 6.5-inch wrist, but they love big watches. They loved wrist presents, and they love some G-Shocks, some big G-Shocks too, right? Like some Frogman G-Shocks, like not tiny G-Shocks. And yeah, that's cool. And so if you're someone like that, then you might appreciate the Skyraider a little bit more. But if you like a sleeker look, if you like the thinness, if you really are going to wear this as a dress watch, if you go into an office and you want to be able to wear this with your suit and tie or anything like that, but you want a little bit of glitz from the dial, then this might be a good option for you. But if I'm honest, you could totally wear this with just about anything. I think you could wear both of these, dress them up, dress them down. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to compare these real quick so that you can see them side by side. And it just so happened to be that I had this meteorite one to compare with my meteorite Skyraider. And so that's what I wanted to look at. All right, my friends, if there's anything I didn't cover, drop it down in the comment section and I'll talk to you a little bit more down there, try to answer your questions. But until we talk again, please remember what really matters, and that's not watches. Keep the insanity sane.